Hello everyone, John AG here. Welcome back to my channel Aurex. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, in this channel you will find the real information, real market updates that everyone cannot tell you. So please subscribe this channel and love you all of my subscribers for your support, and please watch this video till the very end because YouTube will not push my videos to more people. What if I told you that the greatest wealth transfer in human history is happening at this exact second, and 99% of the population is completely blind to it? What if the numbers on your screen, the ones telling you your stock portfolio is up, the ones telling you your house is worth more, are actually the greatest financial illusion ever orchestrated? Take a profound, honest look around you. You feel it, don't you? There is an undeniable tension in the air, a quiet anxiety that keeps you awake at night when you think about your future, your savings, and the legacy you are going to leave for your children. You go to the grocery store, and the total at the register shocks you. You pay your utility bills, and they demand a larger and larger share of your hard-earned paycheck. Yet the financial media, the suited anchors on mainstream television, look straight into the camera and tell you that the economy is resilient, that inflation is under control, and that everything is perfectly fine. They point to nominal highs in the stock market as proof of prosperity, but they are confusing price with value. The terrifying reality of 2026 is that we are not experiencing a genuine economic boom. We are living through the quiet, systematic, and intentional destruction of your purchasing power. Your money, the physical representation of your time, your labor, your sweat, and your life's energy, is bleeding value every single day. The system is designed this way, and today we are going to tear down the veil. We are going to expose the mechanics of this broken system, and, more importantly, we are going to talk about the two oldest, most proven forms of money in human history: gold and silver. But listen to me very carefully. One of these metals is acting exactly as it always has, as the ultimate impenetrable shield for the global elite. But the other? The other is a compressed spring, a physical anomaly, a forgotten titan that is on the verge of a violent explosion that will catch the entire financial establishment completely off guard. If you are holding your life savings in fiat currency, if you are blindly trusting a system that has historically betrayed the working class time and time again, you are standing on the tracks, and a freight train is coming. You cannot afford to look away. The great macro setup of 2026. To comprehend the sheer magnitude of what is about to happen to precious metals, we must first step back and examine the global economic and geopolitical chessboard as it stands today. The world has irrevocably fractured. The post-1971 fiat currency experiment, the system initiated when the gold standard was entirely abandoned, leaving money backed by absolutely nothing but the promises of politicians, is now entering its final, fatal stages of fatigue. We have entered an era of absolute fiscal dominance. Governments across the globe, from the west to the east, have borrowed such astronomical sums of money that they have trapped themselves in a mathematical corner. They can no longer afford to let interest rates normalize. If they raise rates to fight the rampant inflation that is destroying the middle class, they bankrupt their own treasuries. The interest payments on national debts have eclipsed military spending. If they choose the other path, printing more money, engaging in endless quantitative easing to cover these massive deficits, they utterly destroy the currency. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is the cold, hard, mathematical reality of 2026. The debt spiral has passed the point of no return. Central banks know this. They understand the mathematics of their own trap better than anyone else. They will never admit it to you on the evening news because their entire system relies on your unwavering confidence in their paper money. But watch their hands, not their mouths. Look at what the central banks of the world have been doing for the past few years. Across the globe, nations in Asia, the Middle East, and Eastern Europe have been buying gold at a pace that has shattered all historical records. They are quietly and aggressively dumping their dollar reserves, ditching long-term government bonds, and desperately hoarding the one asset that carries absolutely zero counterparty risk. They are preparing for a massive storm. They are building their financial bunkers. They are securing their nation's wealth because they know that a transition to a new financial order is underway. The remonetization of hard assets is no longer a fringe theory. It is happening in real time. But as they secure their gold, you have to ask yourself a terrifying question. What are they leaving for you? The shield of sovereigns. Let us give gold the absolute respect it demands. Gold is the sovereign money. It is the king of assets. When nations lose trust in one another, when trade alliances break down and geopolitical tensions erupt, they do not settle their profound debts in digital promises. They settle them in physical gold. When inflation ravages a society and fiat currencies collapse into hyperinflationary dust, gold is the immutable anchor that preserves wealth across generations. In the landscape of 2026, we have watched gold perform magnificently. It has acted as a giant financial sponge, absorbing the geopolitical terror, the supply chain breakdowns, the wars, and the inflationary fires led by decades of reckless central bank policies. The elite are securing their vast wealth in gold, pushing the price of the yellow metal to astounding heights, surging well past traditional resistance levels. Institutional targets are constantly being revised upwards, with the world's wealthiest families and largest sovereign wealth funds viewing gold not as a trade, but as an absolute necessity for survival. Gold is doing its job perfectly. It is preserving wealth for those who already have it. But we have to be honest with ourselves. Gold has a severe limitation for the average hardworking person. It has already been discovered by the big money. When central banks are buying thousands of tons of gold, they are effectively pricing the average citizen out of meaningful wealth generation. Yes, buying a few ounces of gold will protect your purchasing power. It will act as a store of value. But at its current elevated price point, it is unlikely to multiply your wealth in a life-changing, generational way. Gold is heavy, slow, and majestic. It is a defensive asset meant to guard the fortress. If you are a working-class individual, if you are someone who has seen your wages stagnate while the cost of housing, food, and energy skyrockets, you are likely looking for more than just a shield. You are not trying to protect billions in sovereign wealth, you are trying to protect and grow your family's future. You are searching for the asymmetric opportunity. You are looking for the asset that is fundamentally mispriced, structurally broken by massive physical deficits, and poised for a violent, parabolic upward revaluation. That brings us to the forgotten half of the precious metals story, the metal that has been intentionally hidden in the shadows, the indispensable titan. Silver is, without a doubt, the most schizophrenic, volatile, and profoundly misunderstood asset on the face of the earth. For decades, it has been treated as gold's poor, unpredictable cousin. It has been mercilessly manipulated by major financial institutions, aggressively shorted on the paper markets, and completely ignored by mainstream institutional investors. But in 2026, a terrifying, unavoidable reality is beginning to dawn on the industrial powers of the world. We are running out of physical silver. To understand why this is happening, you must understand that silver is not just a monetary metal. In fact, its historical role as money is currently entirely overshadowed by its absolute industrial necessity. Silver is a miracle of chemistry and physics. It is the single best conductor of electricity and heat known to mankind. It is the most reflective element on the periodic table. Because of these unique physical properties, silver is the ultimate irreplaceable industrial metal of the 21st century. Think deeply about the world we are frantically building right now. Governments and corporations worldwide are mandating an aggressive, unrelenting transition to green energy. You simply cannot build a modern solar panel without silver. The photovoltaic cells require silver paste to conduct the electricity generated by the sun. As the world covers millions of acres in massive solar farms to meet legally binding climate goals, the solar industry alone is consuming hundreds of millions of ounces of silver every single year. And the newer, more efficient solar technologies coming online right now require even more silver per panel than the older models. But it does not stop there. You cannot build an electric vehicle without silver. Every single EV that rolls off an assembly line requires nearly twice as much silver as a traditional internal combustion engine vehicle. From the complex battery management systems and the heavy-duty electrical relays to the sophisticated autonomous driving sensors, cameras, and navigation systems, silver is the literal lifeblood of the modern automobile. As nations ban the sale of gas-powered cars, the demand for automotive silver is exploding. And then there is the elephant in the room, artificial intelligence. The great technological arms race of the 2020s. AI is not just software. It requires massive, sprawling, hyper-advanced data centers to process the trillions of calculations per second needed for machine learning. These data centers run incredibly hot and consume mind-boggling amounts of electricity. The high-efficiency semiconductors, the advanced server racks, the critical power distribution systems, they all rely heavily on silver components to prevent catastrophic overheating and to ensure instantaneous data transmission. There is no substitute. Let me repeat that because it is the crux of the entire thesis. There is no viable substitute for silver in these high-tech applications. Every desperate attempt by engineers to replace silver with cheaper alternatives like copper or aluminum has failed, resulting in massively inferior performance, energy loss, or outright dangerous thermal degradation. The modern world absolutely must have silver to function. The unsolvable supply crisis. Now, basic economics dictates that when demand for a commodity explodes, the price goes up, which incentivizes producers to make more of it. That is how the system is supposed to work. But silver has a fatal structural flaw on the supply side that makes this standard economic response impossible. For over 5 consecutive years leading into 2026, the global silver market has been operating in a massive structural physical deficit. The world is consuming hundreds of millions of ounces more silver than the global mining industry can pull out of the ground, and we are violently draining the above-ground stockpiles to make up the difference. Why can't we just mine more? Here's the truly terrifying part of the equation. Over 70% of all the silver mined in the world is not mined from primary silver mines. It is pulled out of the earth as a completely accidental byproduct of mining for base metals like copper, zinc, and lead. This means that the supply of silver is incredibly inelastic. You cannot simply flip a switch, hire a crew, and open a silver mine to meet the surging demand from the solar and AI industries. If the price of silver skyrockets tomorrow, a copper miner in South America is not going to spend $1 billion to expand their massive copper operation just to get a few extra ounces of byproduct silver. Their business model is dictated by the price of copper, not silver. Furthermore, the environmental and social governance regulations, the ESG mandates, have made it nearly impossible to permit and open new mining operations. It takes an average of 15 to 20 years to take a newly discovered mineral deposit from the exploration phase to actual commercial production. The capital expenditure required is staggering, and for the last decade, the mining industry has suffered from catastrophic underinvestment. We are currently mining the lowest grade silver ores in modern history because the easy, high-grade deposits were depleted decades ago. The supply cannot respond to the demand shock. It is mathematically impossible in the short to medium term. The collision is already happening. The paper illusion versus the physical reality. So, if demand is exploding and supply is constrained, why isn't the price of silver already at hundreds of dollars an ounce? This is where we uncover the darkest, most manipulated aspect of the global financial system. For decades, the price of silver has not been dictated by the physical buyers and sellers exchanging metal. It has been dictated by massive bullion banks and financial institutions trading billions of dollars worth of digital paper contracts on exchanges like the COMEX in New York and the LBMA in London. These institutions sell naked short contracts, meaning they sell paper promises for silver that does not actually exist in their vaults, to artificially suppress the price and manage the market. They create a massive illusion of abundant supply through financial derivatives. But a paper promise is only valid as long as the buyer doesn't ask for the physical metal. And in 2026, the game is finally ending. The industrial giants, the solar panel manufacturers in Asia, the defense contractors building advanced missile guidance systems in the West, the automakers producing millions of EVs, they cannot build their products with a paper contract. You cannot put a digital derivative into a semiconductor. They require the physical, hard metal. And as they realize that the global deficit is real and worsening, they are abandoning the paper games. They are demanding physical delivery. We are witnessing a historic drain of the registered silver vaults. The massive short positions held by the institutional banks are morphing from a profitable trading strategy into a lethal, existential liability. The physical reality of the industrial world is violently overwhelming the paper manipulation of the financial world. When a market transitions from a paper-priced illusion to a physical delivery crisis, the price movements are not gradual. They are violent, explosive, and completely unmanageable by the authorities. The mathematical guarantee of the ratio. To truly grasp the magnitude of the wealth transfer that is about to occur, you must look closely at the gold to silver ratio. This metric is simply the number of ounces of silver it takes to buy exactly 1 ounce of gold. It is the ultimate compass for precious metals investors. If we look back through thousands of years of human history, geological scarcity has dictated a relatively stable relationship between the two monetary metals. There is approximately 15 to 16 times more silver in the Earth's crust than there is gold. Because of this geological truth, for centuries, empires and civilizations pegged the monetary ratio at roughly 15 to 1. 15 ounces of silver held the same purchasing power as 1 ounce of gold. But in our modern, hyper-financialized era, the massive paper manipulation we just discussed has distorted this ratio to absolutely absurd, historically unprecedented levels. In recent memory, it has spiked as high as 100 to 1, and sometimes even higher. This meant that silver was being priced by the markets as if it were 100 times less valuable, 100 times more abundant than gold, despite the geological reality and the surging, relentless industrial consumption. In 2026, this rubber band is snapping back. We are seeing the ratio violently compress. Every single time the global economy experiences a major macro shock, a massive inflation print, a geopolitical escalation, a failure in the banking system, silver moves faster and exponentially harder than gold. Why? because it is a much smaller market and the physical constraints are much tighter. When the gold to silver ratio compresses, it simply means silver is rising significantly faster than gold, catching up to its true historical valuation. But even as the ratio drops, silver remains historically, criminally cheap compared to its yellow counterpart. Consider the simple mathematics. If this ratio were to merely revert to its conservative, modern historical average of 40-1, and if gold continues its trajectory past $4,500, we are looking at silver prices well north of $110 an ounce. And that is just a reversion to the mean. If the physical squeeze truly intensifies, if we see a panic hoarding event where major corporations realize they cannot secure the silver required to keep their factories running, and they begin buying every ounce they can find at any price, we will witness a pure price discovery event unlike anything recorded in modern financial history. The conservative price targets will be obliterated in a matter of weeks. Reclaiming your financial sovereignty. Let us step back from the charts, the ratios, and the supply-demand deficits for a moment. I want to speak to you on a human level. Why does any of this actually matter to you, your family, and your daily life? It matters deeply because the current fiat financial system is not flawed. It is functioning exactly as it was designed. It is a highly efficient mechanism designed to siphon wealth and purchasing power away from the working class and transfer it directly to the government and the financial elite. When rampant inflation hits the economy, who suffers the absolute most? It is not the billionaire with highly leveraged real estate portfolios, sprawling stock holdings, and sovereign gold stored in private vaults. They are protected. The people who suffer are the single parents trying to stretch a paycheck to buy basic groceries. It is the elderly retirees who worked for 40 years, believing their fixed pensions would be enough to grant them a peaceful end of life, only to find they can no longer afford their medication or property taxes. It is the young, hardworking couples who did everything right, went to school, got the jobs, but realized they can no longer afford the down payment on a simple starter home because the currency they are desperately trying to save is losing its value faster than they can possibly earn it. Inflation is not an accident of nature. It is not an unpredictable storm. It is a deliberate policy. It is the quietest, most insidious, and most immoral tax ever invented by governments. It steals the most precious asset you possess, your time. You willingly trade the finite, unrecoverable hours of your mortal life for a currency that unaccountable central bankers can create by the trillions with a simple keystroke on a computer. When you make the conscious decision to convert your fiat currency into physical gold or physical silver, you are doing something profound. You are stepping completely outside of that matrix of control. You are taking your wealth, your stored labor, and placing it into a physical element that no corrupt politician can print, no sophisticated artificial intelligence algorithm can replicate, and no reckless central bank can debase. Holding a physical silver coin or a gold bar in your hand is a deeply grounding, almost spiritual financial experience. It has incredible density and weight. It carries the history of human civilization within it. It possesses true intrinsic value. For thousands of years, a single ounce of silver was considered a fair, standard day's wage for a skilled laborer. It was the money of the people. Today, purely because of the massive, unsustainable paper illusion created by the commodities markets, you have the fleeting opportunity to buy that exact same ounce of silver for a tiny fraction of its true historical and industrial worth. But you must realize that this window of opportunity is not going to stay open forever. In fact, it is closing rapidly as we speak. The final awakening. The entire global narrative is shifting under our feet. For years, silver was dismissed as the forgotten asset. It languished in obscurity while massive tech stock bubbles captured the imagination of the public and highly speculative cryptocurrencies minted overnight paper millionaires. The world became obsessed with digital wealth, forgetting the physical foundations that make the digital world possible. But the physical world is ruthlessly reasserting its dominance in 2026. The illusion is shattering. The sovereign nations and the global elite are aggressively hoarding gold, driving its price ever higher to protect their massive fortunes and to prepare for the inevitable restructuring of the global monetary system. They are securing the ultimate safe harbor. If you want to ensure that the wealth you have managed to accumulate today survives the coming sovereign debt crisis and the currency devaluations, gold is your impenetrable armor. But silver is something entirely different. Silver is the opportunity of a lifetime. It is the ultimate dual-threat asset. On one hand, it is a historically proven, severely undervalued monetary metal with thousands of years of pedigree. On the other hand, it is currently colliding head-on with an unprecedented, completely unstoppable industrial demand shock, driven by the most critical technologies of the modern era. It is the absolute cornerstone metal that the future of human infrastructure cannot be built without, yet it is currently priced as an irrelevant afterthought. Do not allow yourself to be fooled by the daily noise of the financial markets. Do not be shaken out of your position by the engineered volatility designed specifically by algorithms to scare weak hands and retail investors out of the market. The massive, gut-wrenching price swings we are witnessing, sudden, inexplicable drops followed by violent, massive surges, these are not signs of a healthy market. These are the classic, undeniable death rattles of a highly manipulated market that is breaking at its physical seams. It is the violent transition from a tightly managed paper illusion to a desperate physical crisis market. When a vital commodity enters a true structural deficit, the price must rise to a level that destroys demand. But with silver, the industrial demand is highly inelastic. An automaker building a $100,000 electric vehicle might use $100 or $200 worth of silver in its components. Even if the price of silver suddenly quadruples overnight, it only adds a marginal cost to the final product. The automaker is not going to halt their multi-billion-dollar assembly lines over a few $100s. They will simply pay whatever outrageous price the market demands to secure the physical silver they need to survive. This exact dynamic is the perfect recipe for a parabolic, unstoppable price explosion. You have to ask yourself a very serious question today. Where do you want the fruits of your life's labor to be when the music finally stops? Do you want your wealth sitting in a digital bank ledger, vulnerable to the whims of desperate governments and central bankers who will not hesitate to inflate your purchasing power away to save their failing system? Or do you want your wealth secured in the timeless, physical elements that have successfully survived the rise and fall of every empire, every devastating war, and every catastrophic fiat currency collapse in the entire recorded history of human civilization? The choice is entirely yours, but the time to make that choice is running out. Take absolute control of your financial future right now. Educate yourself relentlessly. Look past the mainstream propaganda and study the raw, undeniable data. The greatest transfer of wealth in history is happening right now in real time. The central banks are making their massive moves. The industrial giants are desperately securing their supply lines. What are you doing to protect yourself? Thank you for being here with me today. If this message resonated deeply with you, if you can feel the undeniable truth in what we have discussed today, I urge you to share this video. Wake up your friends, wake up your family, wake up your community. The single greatest defense we have against a corrupt, dying financial system is a highly educated, fiercely prepared, and financially sovereign populace. Stay incredibly strong. Stay eternally vigilant. Protect your family. Protect your future. I will see you in the next one.